So the topic for this morning is cycle counting and inventory adjustments. These are two, I think, very, very related things. And here's what we're going to cover. Why cycle count? Kind of do my sales pitch. I think everybody on this call is doing cycle counting, but just kind of my sales pitch to continue doing cycle counting and why I think it's important. We're going to talk about a couple of RF options you can use for cycle counting. Really, there's two screens. I'm going to discuss what sends products to the cycle count screen in RF. Then the adjustment variance report, investigating your overages and shortages, and finally a minute or two on other types of inventory adjustments we do not through cycle count. Example would be a pair of gloves that you need to self-consume so that somebody on your staff can use them. Okay, let me go back to my slides here. So I had fun with this. I don't claim to be a graphic artist master, but I did have fun with this one. So what we've got here on the left, we've got a pretend rack in your warehouse with a bunch of products on it. I use different colors and kind of different size boxes just to represent different products. The number on the box represents what Eclipse thinks is in your warehouse. So if you were to check the on-hand location maintenance for here, you would see 8 of this, 3 of this, 22 of that. That's sometimes called the perpetual inventory. On the right, this is what's actually in your warehouse. If you start looking, you'll notice some of the numbers are different, even some of the boxes are a little bit different. And really, the way I think about it, we cycle count to reconcile these two things, to reconcile what Eclipse thinks we have, and then by cycle counting, we tell Eclipse what we actually have. In our business, all day long, product is coming in, going out, getting moved around. I mean, no matter how hard we try, inevitably we're going to be off on product over the time. It really is unavoidable, but we, of course, try to do a lot of things to minimize that. So stepping through a couple quick examples. On the left, Eclipse thinks I have 8 of this. I go out and do my cycle count. Wow, I've got 9. One reason, just one example reason for that could be you underpicked an order. So maybe last week you billed a customer for 3 of these and you only gave them 2. Just one example of why you might be over. On this other product, Eclipse thinks we have 22 of this thing that comes in a green box. We go out, we've only got 20. This is probably the more common example, especially for lower dollar things like fittings, where we're moving a lot of them. And, you know, if we give the customer an extra 3/4 inch coupling, they might not tell us about it. I mean, honestly, it might not be worth their time to tell us that we gave them an extra $3 fitting. So I would say especially lower dollar, fast moving products, there is a tendency to overpick without trying to. You know, did I put 10 in the bag already? I'm not sure. Let me put another one in there. Another example, Eclipse is showing 3 of something. We go out, we've got 4. This could be coming from a receiving that perhaps we missed something during receiving. A little bit later in my presentation, I'm going to point you to a handout that spells out these different things you can look at for overages and shortages. I'm just kind of giving some examples real quick. This one, Eclipse thinks we have 6 of this product in a green box. We go out, we have 6 of something, but it's a different product. That could come from a picking or receiving error, also from an inventory adjustment error. Final one, Eclipse shows 10 of something, we go out, and there's 13. Maybe we did an inventory adjustment in error. So those are just some reasons why we might be over or under. Okay, so let me open up Eclipse if it hasn't closed on me. So really, there are probably at least 3 ways you can change quantities in Eclipse. I'm advocating that you use cycle count really as the main one, and cycle count by location. I'll talk about both of those in a moment. Location maintenance really is intended for information, is to check where a product is. You can go into location maintenance if you want to move a product from one shelf in your building to another. That's perfectly fine. But when it comes to increasing or decreasing your overall on hands, please don't use location maintenance, even if it lets you. It's really not what it's intended for. So when you do cycle count through cycle count or cycle count by location, obviously you can change on hands there. And if you use either of those 2 screens, then Eclipse is tracking those counts and changes in the cycle count tracking report. Versus if you do it in location maintenance, it's not tracking there. So really, these are the 2 screens intended for cycle counting. I'm going to do the one used less first. Cycle count by location. I think this is really useful when I go out to branches and do spot checks. This is what I tend to use. So I pretend I'm in Broomall, I'm out in the showroom in 1BA1, and cycle count by location. It'll show me the products that are supposed to be there, and then I'll proceed to scan the products and enter the counts. As I scan the products, they'll drop off of the screen. So I think that it's a really useful tool just to spot check. If you think, oh shoot, I think I'm off on these ProPress fittings or whatever, and they're all in this one location, let me quick check all 8 of those. So that's cycle count by location. But the main tool we use is just called cycle count. And let me go in there. Go to my next slide here. So when you go into the cycle count screen in the upper right, it's going to show you the total counts that are there. And I'll explain on the left here, I've spelled out what makes up those 69 or what can put counts in there. Then within this screen, you can hit Alt-T, or it's that Control-Alt button in the upper left of an RF gun. And when you hit that, you have the choice. Do you want to see all counts, which should be all 69? That was the default. Do I just want to see my immediate counts? Or what Eclipse is doing, all of our products are ranked based on how fast we sell them. So you could go in and say, of those 69, I just want to see the B ranked or the A ranked. And if I choose one of these, it's going to be a smaller subset. In practice, I really don't know anybody that does that on a regular basis. What everybody tends to do, which I approve of, is they first go into their immediates. Here, Broomall has 2. And what are causing immediate counts? I got this from Eclipse, and then I've kind of added on and reworded a little bit. But immediate counts, I skipped over it. In that location maintenance screen, you can flag a product for cycle count. If you're out, just say, oh, this doesn't look right. I don't have time to count it right now. I can go back to that. But in location maintenance, you click cycle count, and that'll put it into immediate. Also, if you back order a product during RF picking, it'll put it to immediate. If during picking you go into the negative for a location, it'll send it to immediate. So most branches have a handful of these each day. The other categories, again, you could go into each of these. In practice, most everybody knocks out their immediates and then just does all counts to see what's remaining. So if I had knocked out that one immediate count for Broomall, I'd be left with 68. Non-immediate counts are caused by these things: products blank locations with a positive quantity. This one I dug into and worked with a lot of branches the last, I don't even know, last so many months. If you have a blank location status, meaning the product's not designated as primary, secondary, or floating, then I think when you pick that product, even if the pick is fine, it triggers the cycle count. Missing X, we all know about. Product in a location not defined in zone maintenance. So Eclipse will let me give a product a location like Matt's desk. If I haven't gone into zone maintenance and set up Matt's desk, then it'll throw it in here. And then finally, the advanced cycle counting program that I think I've worked with 16 of our branches on at this point. So advanced cycle counting is the majority, but there are these other reasons. So when folks reach out to me, Matt, you told me 40 counts a day and I've got 52, it's going to be one of these reasons here. Sorry, back to location maintenance for a second. So here, if I put in a product, if I were to click this cycle count, then it would put this product into immediate count. Okay, changing gears a little bit, but obviously the result of cycle counting is often inventory adjustments, increasing or decreasing quantities. So every day, our branch managers and usually the warehouse supervisor or another person at the branch gets the adjustment variance report. I think you're all probably pretty familiar with this right now, but I wanted to show you that, or remind you that you can run this whenever you want. So if at your branch, I'm going to use ProPress just as an example because I was counting this in Broomall the other day. So if at your branch, you find that you're coming up with shortages or overages, you can run the adjustment variance report for a date range to get more of a sense of what that pattern is. So I'll just do August for Broomall. Then here, I can put in a minimum variance. If I leave it blank, it'll show me everything. And if you wanted, like I said, you could hone in and say, I feel like we're off on ProPress. You would need to look up the price line for the product, but then this will specifically now show for Broomall, for August, show me all of my adjustment variances, for what I've specified. So I think this is a super good diagnostic tool when you're looking for trends. Like, man, what's going on? Like I keep seeing, seems like we've been adjusting this type of product lately. Kind of what's the bigger trend? Maybe run it for 3 months or even a year. Reach out to me if I can help you there. All right. There are 2 handouts I want to draw your attention to. One, both of these are in branch team shares, training and resources, Eclipse, warehouse. And one of these I'm kind of showing on the right of my screen is inventory variance research checklist. So at the beginning of my presentation, I hit on some of these reasons, but this really spells out, what to look for if you're over on a product or you're short on a product. So please check this out, that handout, if you're not familiar with it. Coming to the end here. What else? What we recently revised, also in here, this one's called inventory adjustment categories. And we revised this, I think, last week or the week before. So I'm not going to go into the mechanics of it now, unless you want me to when I unmute. But when you're doing an inventory adjustment for one of these reasons, you go on Solar Eclipse, bring up inventory adjustment screen, new adjustment, put in the branch. So these are all of the reasons that would go with why you're taking something out of inventory. The example I gave before, branch use, you're taking a pair of gloves out of inventory. So behind the scenes, these reason codes that you would choose tie to different general ledger accounts, so they do different things for accounting. So it's important to try to use the right one. If you're not sure, reach out to your area director, Catherine, me, accounting. Also, we broke these into two groups. There are some reason codes really only used by IT and accounting, like the scratch and dent, these ones over here, or like bad debt, lost inventory. It would be somebody in accounting or possibly Eileen instructing you to use these codes. So stay away from these, please, unless you're working directly with accounting, or I'll say perhaps Eileen, Catherine. I'm going to unmute. I know I covered a lot of ground, trying to keep it a little bit high level on this one. Let's one moment. Participants. Okay, you should all be able to unmute.
Can you hear me, Matt?
Yes, sir.
What happened to the reason a previous adjustment error? I thought that was one of the reasons that was listed before, but I don't see that.
Unless I'm chopping it off. Let me go.
No, it's not there because every time I'm trying to, I don't see that because of what I did last night, with all those errors trying to fix it.
Oh, gotcha. Well, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, that could have been pre-Matt. So we just, like I said, like the other week, we actually just added some and cleaned up.
No, we are not looking at the reasons. Are you talking about, Ray, when you have, when you're putting a note? I think that's the other document you're referring to.
Well, like when you're doing adjustments, manual adjustments, the reasons pop up for manual repair, whatever, or branch use. But what about for a reason should be in there for previous adjustment error?
Oh, yeah, sorry, no. That's not an option. Count and then here a note reference the prior adjustment that was wrong and say incorrect adjustment, give the adjustment number. You can't, people were just using things and saying everything was a previous adjustment error. I think those are the kinds of things that without more detail or prior reference, it's like you're stating the obvious. I don't mean to be rude to people, but like it's like saying a change was made. And it's like, yes, that is what the report itself tells us. So what we need is more detail. Adjustment and error, I reference the adjustment and I can actually see, like tie it to something. It's just too general otherwise. Everything could be categorized as prior adjustment error.
I got one more question.
Yeah. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like
yes, absolutely. Okay. All right. So last night when I was doing the cycle counting, I noticed that I had a lot of things in there that said defective. How are we supposed to get those things out of the gun?
So in the cycle count, if you see negative quantities as defective, like we're always going to have those. It's because, well, when you're handling a defective return for a customer, you take the product back, minus one of whatever, put it in as defective, and then that our process is we have that order stay as call when complete. There's exceptions, but generally we leave this order as call when complete. But then meanwhile, when we create the return or negative PO out of the return goods queue, that's going to pull the product as defective out of inventory and put it and make it negative. And that because we haven't processed the sales order side. So every branch, pretty much all the time, you have negative defectives and you can ignore those in the cycle count. There's no way to hide them. So it's not causing a problem. Well, usually, but that's 9 times out of 10. That's why you would see them there.
Okay.
Hey, Matt, just a quick question on the the ranking of products from one of your first slides. Is that based company-wide, or is that based on the store location?
Store location. So they're in Eclipse, right? Product rankings are mostly used for purchasing, but I guess you could do sales analysis off of them. So there's actually different ranking methods. I think our company might have set up as many as 10 to 15. I'm not positive which one that RF gun uses, but you can have some that are global. You can have some that are branch by branch. I don't know, man. So like, so it's just in that cycle count. It's just the way Eclipse was set up to give you those choices. But I don't, behind the scenes, I don't know which of our 10 plus ranking methods it's using. Sorry. I know, I find it confusing too. Like, but as far as I know, it's really our purchasing group that, uses these rankings. But, now you know all I know.
That's good enough for me. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, right. Obviously, it's supposed to get at that A items are your fastest moving, but you can define this rank setup. You can define it by dollars, by units, but there's all these different ways. So, well, as always, look on. If you have ideas for other presentations, I can do. Oh wait, we got something in the chat.
Oh, it's Jeff
Oh,
saying
Jeff was dropping off. Oh, that was before the. Okay. If you ever have ideas for webinars, presentations like this that I can do, let me know. Also, I think Catherine and others, soon I'm going to start kind of recycling presentations that I did like a year ago. So I was actually looking at those and I've highlighted some. Sometimes I overlap, like the content on one presentation overlaps with another, and I tend to update and change things. But I think probably I'm going to I've done a bunch on more like operations and warehousing side. I was thinking I'll turn back and start doing some more kind of on the sales side. But anyhow, if you have ideas, just reach out to me.
For those on this, I mean, next year we're going to look to try to have a goal for inventory adjustments as percentage of your sales, tied to a bonus as part of the business review. So this will become, like, inventory control will become a much more prominent aspect of what we do in the branches. And I think it would be a good learning time for everybody to understand more or dig in and like reach out to Jason or Matt, or I mean, like Nate, I know, and I don't know, Jim, if that's you or actually Neil or who, but there are a couple of people who've done this for years and know how to do the research to figure out like what happened to my product. And sometimes you can't tell, or it's disappeared, or it's just shrink, maybe it walked. But the more that we all can learn on how to read what happened with the inventory, I think will help us better track and understand where it went so that it doesn't happen again and get back to root cause and try to address it, because we're trying to have a tighter control, and that'll be measured as percentage of sales, how much inventory adjustments you have over time. I mean, it won't probably be done by a month. It's probably going to be like a year-end inventory accuracy combined with some surprise visits from those taking a surprise inventory. So stuff we're looking at just to really try to improve our accuracy on our product.
Hey, Catherine, it is me. I'm at the counter. Just a question, and
Yeah.
I might open Pandora's box here, but if we're gonna rate stores on interviews on inventory, shouldn't the stores do a full inventory to start the year so we have like a baseline?
Yeah, I mean,
Whoa.
Right,
full
exactly.
inventory, I've been told that by Eileen that takes like weeks of prep, and bringing in an outside party is not possible. So I mean,
Gotcha.
we've been looking at doing like something as most closely proximate possible to full inventory, but without being a full inventory, like counting a lot of your high dollar items, kind of like locking down for a period of time,
Makes sense.
but probably not an absolute full inventory.
Fair enough. Just figured I'd make everyone angry at me.
Yeah, it's been discussed. I mean, because it is a good point. Otherwise, you don't really have a baseline. But that's what I've been trying to emphasize over this year, getting on to cycle counting, which prior to that year had not been done consistently. And I know in all of our branches, it hasn't been done even for a year. So getting that baseline will be key.